friends, this is Archangel. MGTOW. What is this? Well, basically, you take a certain class of people, males, and deem them disposable in mass. Then eventually these target individuals get sick of being mistreated and used for utility, and so they walk away from abuse. The Men's Rights tries to change the system that deems males disposable. MGTOW simply washes their hands of the twisted mess entirely. So, yes, there is legitimacy to MGTOW. Just because you female-worshipping sheeple cannot see this or process this through your single neuron does not invalidate MGTOW in any way. MGTOW is not indiscriminate woman haters. It is not a cover for homosexuality. They are not the heartsick or weak. They are not betas. These are called shaming tactics that the uneducated hurl at MGTOW because they are too ignorant to comprehend MGTOW. In fact, they could get laid all day long and take your woman if they wanted. Yet their strength and valor comes in their choosing not to. They choose to be MGTOW. What the intellectual toddler populace cannot understand is that MGTOW is a choice, not a condition thrust onto them. And do not worry, all you male feminists or caveman traditionalists, the human species is not in reproductive peril. There are so many slave males like you in the world, chained to responsibility and hopelessly chasing female attention, validation, approval, and that pat on the head that you are being a good boy, and maybe even 3 seconds of female-assisted ejaculation. There is no shortage of males to reproduce. There are gazillions of chump conformist men and only a handful of MGTOW. So you anti-MGTOW can kindly piss off. You don't need to bother us or worry about what we are doing. But you see, this video is not for the dim-witted general populace who really have no clue about gynocentrism. This is to address the males already revolving around MGTOW. Now, males of all stripes have their own idea of what MGTOW is, and opinions are fine, but there is an underlying foundation that we have gotten away from, and thus we need to clean house a little bit and get back to purity, meaning MGTOW is all about monks, not simply single unmarried dudes. We are about male empowerment, not pump and dump. I may step on a few feelers here, but I do not mean to insult. I also do not apologize for trying to purify our message and rescue males. So, if you are entertaining or interacting with vagina, if you are chasing females in any capacity still, you are enabling gynocentrism. And if you enable gynocentrism, you are not MGTOW. If you are curious as to the reasoning, then yeah, there is a lot that needs to be said. So listen carefully. If you do not have the time to listen to this entire video right now, then come back when you do. Okay, men going their own way. There are so many people that skew that little phrase into anything they want it to be, to the point that so long as you are a man and you are doing something, in other words, going any way, then technically you are a man going his own way, and you can be MGTOW. But then that means every adult male is MGTOW. The entire world is MGTOW. Hence, MGTOW is not a specialized group of enlightened or awakened males, but rather is, in fact, the world in general. And thus there is no need for the acronym MGTOW, since it is understood that every adult male is a man and is going some direction throughout their lives. And thus the aggregate of adult human males are men going their own way, right? I mean, come on, monks and manginas alike, all are men going their own way. Yes? Does that sound reasonable? Obviously, it does not. That is not the spirit in which MGTOW was formed. Which means that we are being infiltrated by the ignorant, by the planted moles who try to undermine purity of purpose with ambiguity of phraseology. And why are we being infiltrated? Well, quite simply, we are the shiznit, the bee's knees. We are the cutting edge, and everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon. MGTOW is a hot potato, highly controversial, and as with anything highly controversial, there is an excitement quotient provided by the controversy. MGTOW is the contentious storm within male spaces, and anywhere there is excitement, everybody wants to be a part of the cool, new, hot-button debate. So now even married doormats and females try to get in on MGTOW. Now, not all people that are drawn in by the excitement of controversy agree with MGTOW. Some simply swarm us for their own enrichment, meaning that even people who detest MGTOW will use the acronym as clickbait to gain views. That's how popular MGTOW is and how much growth and recognition the community is getting. Male empowerment enemies are using our acronym as clickbait to enrich themselves with attention. That's how volatile and popular MGTOW is becoming. To the general masses, our passion, our messages, our space is just a carnival ride to the weak and bored, who will come here, take a few turns on the merry-go-round, then become disinterested and go on to some other ride, some other hot-button topic. Yet, the problem is, with so many strangers passing through who do not care about our community or our purpose, since they are just here for the fireworks, and so they muddy our waters before moving on. And then, newly awakened males come here and see these muddied waters and think that this is what MGTOW is about, being apprised of gynocentrism while banging hoes on the weekends. Hot damn, this is awesome! This is why we must protect the foundational pillar of our movement, which is revocation of devaluation and rejection of disposability. Essentially, that is what it boils down to. No matter what version of mission statement is quoted, MGTOW is about rejecting the devaluing of ourselves, and we decry the expendability of beings simply because they are male. Everybody throws in their opinion and wants to redefine MGTOW, to stretch the meaning to include their mom, their wife, their girlfriend, and their cats, along with anything else they see fit. Okay, sure, that's great. Everybody is entitled to their opinions on anything, yet that does not change what MGTOW was founded on and stands for. The spirit of MGTOW is being a monk. Monks are not some extreme faction within MGTOW, but rather they embody MGTOW. Many like to think that MGTOW simply means not getting married. But that is only half-assing it, because remaining unmarried does not bring remedy to the devaluation that MGTOW grew in opposition to in the first place. Monk is the logical conclusion when you trace the lines of everything that devalues, enslaves, and disposes of males. Thanks to the purple pillars and PUAs, some of the newer ranks have come to view MGTOW as a guide for guys on how to pamper themselves and bang tricks without attachment. This is rookie mentality for when you truly embrace yourself in the male struggle, when you truly realize that you are seen as inferior and expendable to the world, when you internalize and start caring, actually caring about the male plight of yourselves or friends or loved ones, then you eventually conclude monk as a status rather than a faction within a controversial male space. Seriously, ask yourself, does sexual congress or relationships with females fuel devaluation and servitude to gynocentrism in any way? Why, yes, they do. So then, by definition, MGTOW rejects such things. How is it even a question of whether MGTOW is monk or not? It was founded on the tenet of rejecting everything abusive to males. And guess what? Male enslavement is definitely abusive. And what is the biggest enslaver of males? Their appetites, specifically their romantic and sexual addictions. Sexual congress with females enables devaluation, and MGTOW rejects that which devalues males. ABC. How are you guys not understanding this? One word: imposters. Now, most males get here, embrace the idea of devaluation and disposability rebellion, yet when they take a deeper look into the rabbit hole and they see that system-wide rejection is the end of the road, that monk is the logical conclusion, and there is no grand release or reward waiting, just solitary empowerment. There are no likes or congratulations or happy face emoticons from chicks waiting at the end of the MGTOW tunnel. And when most guys see this, they psychologically freak out and start finding ways to keep their addictions valid and bring their vices with them into MGTOW, like kings or pharaohs, thinking they can bring their worldly riches with them into the afterlife. And so we get the dating crowd here, even though sexual congress and empowerment sovereignty are wholly at odds, much like the rich man getting into heaven. MGTOW is not floundering. It grows and will grow and continue to grow. The only question is, which direction will it take? What do you want to be a part of? A group of hardened, elite warriors, or a pathetic hangout of weak purple and blue pill addicts who single-handedly turn this male empowerment stronghold into a laughingstock comedy show that is completely impotent against the male devaluation that spawned this movement in the first place? You become empowered, you become sovereign, you become a man when you no longer need a woman. If you still get any existence validation and identity bolstering from women or chasing the chemical romance of courtship and sexual highs, then you are not MGTOW. You are a visitor in town, here for the fireworks pretending to be a local. I have seen so many imposters and half-assed female and sex-worshipping pansies that hide behind the ambiguity of men going their own way, who split hairs on technical grounds and propose that, hey, that's me. I am a man, and I am doing my own thing. So I am a member too, and I think I will jump into the fray and tell everyone my point of view, which is that you can be in a relationship or be married or anti-feminist and MGTOW at the same time. All of this has landed us in half-ass city, with so many men going so many ways, with so many different opinions on what is acceptable. Thus we get so many subgroups feuding, and we really never get cohesion in order to realize a single unified purpose of devaluation eradication. And in the meantime, all this impotent infighting suits the vaginisty just fine, for while we are busy feuding in our own clubhouse, meanwhile gynocentrism continues on outside as it always has. The village is still being overrun by marauders, as the warriors are hidden away debating engagement rules and battle strategies. So, okay, I woke up the other morning with all of this commentary on MGTOW coming out of my head. And so, here it is. MGTOW, men going their own way. Meaning males that are going away from something. That something is females and a gynocentric society. The tenor of the statement is that there exists something that displeases males, and so males are moving away from that something. Otherwise, there would be no reason to state they are going their own way. It is obvious every creature is going its own way. Also, it is not men and women going their own way, or humans together. It is men separate from women, which also infers that females are that which males move their own direction away from. Men are going away from women. Now, the lore, according to some sources I have read, is that a decade or so ago, males were posting on men's rights forums and were constantly being censored by other men's writers for female criticism, for being too extreme in their opinions, and generally not playing nice and including girls in their conversations. And so eventually, these males simply broke away from the mainstream men's activism and labeled themselves as men going their own way. It was, at the time, an out-of-hand utterance, but it stuck enough for guys to rally around it. Now, regardless of the particulars of who, what, where, when of the acronym's true origins, the why it started has never been in doubt. It grew in defiance to gynocentrism and has now become a beacon for men sick of being belittled, sick of women's crap, sick of hurting. It has morphed into an acronym that strikes anger and fear into the hearts of chicks and manginas alike. It is a place where men are free and uncensored. And now it is a decentralized haven for males. And though many will say MGTOW is not a group or movement, okay, well, let's look. It is not man going his own way. It is men, plural, going their own way. It is a movement. If nothing more, it is a term that describes the aggregate movement of a planetary group of like-minded males, moving in a similar fashion away from mistreatment. Just look at the MGTOW sign. You have the main road, which is the path of society, and then partway up the road there is a disagreement, which leads to a division, and so a group of men break away from the main road and go a different direction. We are a gynocentric species, and so the main road line of the MGTOW sign is gynocentrism. So males disagree with and are breaking away from gynocentrism, which causes their wholesale devaluation and disposal. Now, if males had no disagreement with the establishment or the status quo, if there was no problem, there would be no breaking away from the main road on the sign. Males would simply conform to the single direction that all cultures do. There would be no need for a MGTOW or a MGTOW sign. Everything would already be copacetic. However, males all over the globe know things are all wrong, and whether or not they even know that they are disposable or that gynocentrism causes both devaluation and disposability, males search out of discontentment and find their way here by breaking away from the conventional and looking for more, better. All they know is that they are tired of being devalued and treated like crap. Increasing numbers of males are mentally breaking away from societal tenets and taking moral umbrage with devaluation and disposability. Thus, you have a group of males moving away from that which they do not agree, flocking to men's rights for respite and interaction with like-minded people. Yet, if MGTOW formed from males who deemed men's rights too lukewarm, too fluffy bunny, what does that tell you? That the purple pill, loosey-goosey environment of female chasing and sexual indulgence embraced within men's rights was not what the breakaway group wanted. They broke away to form an environment without the pollutants which handicap men's activism, namely females and sex. Are you following me? Many here may not like this, but all of this has to be said. You see, before MGTOW, there were many groups that existed and represented most every avenue of male thought in regards to male mistreatment and social interaction. Some say you can do whatever you want. Others are wary of marriage. Others discourage dating. Some endorse full-on marriage and traditional families, etc. Yet all speak out in varying degrees about the mistreatments of males or the decline of conservatism and the nuclear family. The point is, you don't have to pretend you are MGTOW. You can be aware of male abuse and interact with females in any number of other pre-existing group theologies. MGTOW is about devaluation and disposability rejection, which directly and specifically includes female abstinence. It is about monks. Bottom line, if you want to bring your females with you into male activism, then check out men's rights. They would be happy to accommodate your outrage over injustice and your continued addiction to the very beings which fuel the injustice that you seek a voice to. Seriously, fellas, you can be aware of female exaltation and male denigration as well as date around. That's fine, but you are not MGTOW. So if you want to speak out about male mistreatment and have a girlfriend, there are like-minded male communities for that. If you want to bash feminism and be married with kids, there is a like-minded male group that embraces that. If you want to be a playa who bangs hoes on the weekend while preaching about divorce and equity, there is a community for that. No matter what degree of awakening and female interaction that you believe in, there is a men's rights group or conservative community or pickup artist or player hangout for you, which already embraces all these varying degrees of activism. And all of these various ideological veins predated MGTOW, meaning they all existed before MGTOW came into being. So, if any of these pre-existing paradigms represented the breakaway males, then MGTOW would not have sprung into being, since those males would be comfortably ensconced in the theology that matched their internal truths. Yet, it is safe to assume that MGTOW came into being because none of these existing theologies matched their views. Not conservatism, not traditionalism, not men's rights, not pickup artists, or players, or pimps, or eternal bachelors, none. And what exactly was missing from these ideologies that caused MGTOW to form? Well, quite simply, it was the one theory that was not represented in men's activism. which was the outright rejection of that which causes male subjugation and servitude in the first place. Not trying to change the system, but rejecting the system entirely. All other paradigms, from traditionalism to feminism to men's rights to players and pickup artists, all thrive within the system. They need the system for their very existence. However, a few unruly males observed that men's activism was not addressing rejection of the system entirely, for none had ever really introspected the system or the human animal beyond superficial feminist quarreling. And thus a few intrepid men saw the ignorance and pedestrian limits to the men's rights movements, who did not know what was truly driving the inequity that they spoke against, and they did not want to know. They wanted to fix the system and have a better position within it. So, rejection of the system, and especially rejection of romantic and sexual congress, celibacy from females, was the only theory not widely represented by the men's rights of the 90s and early 2000s. And hence, embracing monk theology was the reason that males broke away from the lukewarm weakness and gynocentric enabling of the impotent men's rights spheres, in order to form a new place devoid of the censorship and sexual attention and validation addiction that caused men's rights to be so impotent in the first place. Celibacy and truth-seeking, beyond coercion, was a core reason for breaking away from all other male groups. MGTOW is because the other paradigms are too weak or did not adequately address our concerns or represent our beliefs. That's right, dating and having sex is weakness. It is not MGTOW. If you want to interact with females and bitch about feminism, fine, great. We already have traditionalism and conservatism ready and waiting for you, where females bite their tongue and play sweet and demure and make you feel like a man. The man who must labor, sacrifice, and die to protect and provide for females in society. Yep, sorry, there is a teensy-weensy little trade-off here. You get to pretend like you run the show and have privilege and respect, especially from females and the community, so long as you sacrifice, toil, and die to protect the chicks playing submissive. That is probably the best option for purple pillars that want to mess with females and still bloviate unfair divorce laws. Next, we have feminism, where females were sick of being infantilized and they sought to turn their loathing of men into supremacy over them. Now, obviously, males that see injustice do not embrace feminism. Still, it is an option if you need your female validation fix. Simply become a literal slave, waiting on bended knee before snotty, entitled, spoiled chicks. And maybe you might get a hand job once in a while in between verbal, emotional, psychological, and physical abuse. The next pre-existing option for carrying on with chicks and being aware of male mistreatment is the classic bad boy or rebel. For decades, this has been the venue for males that broke away from traditionalism, society, relationships, 9-to-5 jobs, and marriage, because those things were way too square, daddy-o. And thus, males did not want to conform to such stringent rules. Bad boy rebels did not want to conform, or get their hair cut, or get a job, or settle down to a nag and a bunch of brats. They wanted to live with spontaneity, like a bird. Hey, you want to criticize society and carry on with chicks? Then you can be a bad boy and have a bad boy club for guys that want to talk vulgarities and sleep around. Historically, both traditionalists and feminists dislike the bad boy, the rebel, because both sides want commitment. Are you friend or foe? Then we had men's rights come along, pre and early internet, largely made up of traditionalists, reformed bad boys, and rehabilitated male feminists alike, who then began discussing the injustices and slander being laid down by the feminists. They were addressing mockery and mistreatment of the male sex, which they blamed the feminists for. Now, if any of these pre-existing ideologies described and contained MGTOW views, there would be no MGTOW. Males would simply be happy traditionalists or bad boys or men's rights activists. Are we all up to speed so far? MGTOW exists because these different ideologies do not address the concerns of a group of like-minded males who embrace rejection of gynocentrism and abstinence from females as the logical endgame conclusion. The history of human interaction is cyclical. It goes around and around. The only variable is where a particular society is at any one point in time. Traditionalism, feminism, or some form of MGTOW followed by collapse. This is history, and it is as predictable as other human cycles, such as abundance, wealth, technology, then some form of annihilation. Traditionalism is the start-over default setting of humans, where females trade affection and sexual access for protection and provision. Then, sometime down the road, when the environment allows, feminism arises as an organic response to traditionalism. Feminism is a conservatism coup d'etat, where chicks eventually get sick of playing house, and when environmental abundance leads to wealth and technology, females see their chance to bolt and go from housewife to overlord. Then, men's rights rose as an organic response to feminism, to repudiate all the toxicity feminists spew. And the rebel bad boy was a men's rights precursor, because these males could sense something unwell with society and tradition, and so they rejected conformity and societal norms and protocols. They are wild cards, free agents that wanted to do what and whoever they wanted. Usually the bad boys return to traditionalism when they are all partied out. So it can be logically deduced that MGTOW formed because none of these paradigms described nor admonished the one true motivator of change, system and female rejection. Traditionalism is not coming back until collapse happens. The feminist phase is too entrenched and far enough along that men's rights has arisen, yet men's rights being impotent in change, MGTOW has now arisen in response to all. There is no simply jumping back to traditionalism. Females are too entitled and spoiled. It ain't happening. Sorry, it will take some cataclysm to reduce society to the point where females barter with males for survival once again. The only ace in the hole to avoid this cycle is if every man in the world took back his power at once and stopped enabling female crap. So, that is a whole lot of stuff, huh? For the insolent, let's reiterate a couple things here. Yes, MGTOW is a movement. It is wisely decentralized and non-hierarchical, but it is a force, a movement of males nevertheless. As stated earlier, it is a group of males who have moved away from that which they disagree. These are men who did not find respite in men's rights, and so they broke away from that. And even though some like to fancy this as a bunch of lone wolves telling their stories to others, still, men going their own way is a phrase to describe the aggregate of individual males who have rejected devaluation. And like it or not, MGTOW describes this group of males that reject gynocentrism. The issue is when such males, such lone wolves, congregate to interact online, encouraging similar thoughts and ideology, because these lone wolves together forms the community or movement. And this is not bad. Keep it decentralized, the message pure, and do not exalt any one person as a guru. Then sit back and cheer on our growth, since only numbers will bring change, and only education will create numbers, which is what we are doing here. But again, when men and tourists alike come to our spaces, we need the message to be clear. You are deemed expendable because you are male, because you lack a uterus. Then you are devalued in order to justify the suffering commensurate to your expendability. You are utilized as a utility to build, maintain, and protect a society that favors the uterine equipped. And the brilliant minds here have bent, twisted, and folded reality in order to see what falls out as we soldier on in our quest for sovereignty reclamation and deeper understanding as to the machinations behind our unjust existence. Now, many males may not agree on everything. However, the remedies and end conclusions remain as obvious and true now as they were from the start. We reject the tenets of gynocentrism and admonish the abandoning of institutions that support and enable gynocentrism, which absolutely includes romance and sexual interaction. What is so hard to understand? No, you can't be married or in relationships and be MGTOW. Remember, MGTOW exists because the pre-existing paradigms did not satisfy these males. And we already have paradigms that describe males who want relationships and want to expose male inequities. It's called men's rights, and men's rights is vastly aware of male inequities, and they seek to change the system. Within men's rights activism, having sex, dating, relationships, including marriage to unicorns, is perfectly acceptable everyday business. They don't understand or care that female interaction feeds gynocentrism, and gynocentrism is responsible for male devaluation and disposability. Instead, they blame rabid feminists for male woes and cling to the notion that females care and the system can be made right. So, if you want to fight male mockery, feminist lunacy, and still have relationships with unicorns, then men's rights is right there. MGTOW formed because the existing paradigms were inadequate. No, guys can't have sex and date around and be MGTOW. This is the core issue here. Is MGTOW for players or monks? I have demonstrated that it is monk in essence. Yet, addicts find their way here because MGTOW is controversial and exciting, and everybody wants to see what all the fuss is about and give their 2 cents while they are here. So dudes will vent about feminism and male devaluation, yet because they are not true MGTOW, they taint our messages and muddy our waters with the same old man-up, chivalry, sex themes found everywhere else in the world. The same themes that cause males to protect and die for females. The same ideological themes that precipitate the very devaluation they have come seeking refuge from. Dudes thinking that they can still date around and bag skirts demonstrates their limited understanding and or care of the male plight. This is the very same amateur, naive, juvenile ignorance demonstrated in traditionalists and men's rights communities, where they think that feminism is the big bad wolf, rather than practice self-control and overcome their female addiction, so that they might understand gynocentrism and the nature of the human female, but more importantly, that they might come to know the nature of the human male in order to empower themselves. No. There are too many dudes hiding in MGTOW that want to poke at feminists and still bend girls over the kitchen table at 3 in the morning after the club. You see, MGTOW has been so infiltrated and corrupted to the point that we now think monks are an extreme few radicals, a fringe faction within the MGTOW movement. Whereas monks are what MGTOW was meant to be. The spirit of MGTOW is to be a monk and to ghost from the paradigms that you have broken away from. And many do not want to say it or offend their viewers, but I will. No, MGTOW is not about banging chicks or dating. Come on, it's not brain surgery here. Tell me exactly how sexually interacting with females supports male sovereignty or encourages male empowerment. And this begs the question, is sex the actual act of intercourse or physical pleasure? Is it gynocentric? Well, perhaps not, but everything that comes before and after favors female elevation and protection. So yes, sexual congress fuels gynocentrism. You chase and appease females to get sex, and then you must protect and provide for her upon impregnation. Understand that a leading reason males allow devaluing and abuse of themselves is because they have an addiction to female approval and validation. Sex is merely a rather physical method of receiving approval. But my friends, there is no free sex. There is no sex that empowers males because in order to receive the attention that males crave, they must play the game of chasing and placating females, which absolutely, unequivocally requires males to devalue themselves, their sex, and their worth in order to appease females into giving males this attention and approval. And this reinforces the machine that chews up males wholesale around the world. MGTOW is not about sex or dating. I mean, think about it. Why is MGTOW such a hot button topic? Is it because we freely talk about females? No, not really. People can talk ill of females in men's rights or other circles, or on their own channel on YouTube. They don't need the MGTOW label to talk ill or freely and uncensored about females. No, MGTOW is popular because it is a radical departure from everything else, including men's rights. And what makes it such a radical departure? Is it simply swearing off marriage? No. Male aversion to marriage has been growing before MGTOW. We became controversial because MGTOW did what other male spheres did not: reject sex and romantic interaction with females. This is why it took off, because males were rejecting the one element that all other male groups were still worshiping: female attention and sexual congress. That's what made MGTOW so controversial, that males were rejecting their natural instincts and programming towards sexuality. Males were rejecting their very instincts. And yeah, that is kind of a big deal. But you see, most males are too addicted to female attention, and giving up sex and romance was like a bird giving up trees and power lines. It's not gonna happen. But that's what made MGTOW so radical. That is what drew males to MGTOW. The fact that a few males were preaching fantastic things never heard before, such as abstinence from females and sexual relations. That's why MGTOW was, is, and will continue to be revolutionary, because of the monk element. You can find guys that ball chicks and bitch about feminism anywhere and everywhere, yet the specialty of MGTOW is precisely the monk aspect. I am not trying to create division in male spaces. Indeed, I see men's rights as more ally than enemy. They're impotent, but they're well-intentioned. I am not trying to be elitist or separatist. Males need to unite, and indeed anything that awakens males to their true devalued state, I welcome. But the spirit of MGTOW is to separate from gynocentrism. So I am not stirring discord. I am merely clearing murk out of our waters. Because MGTOW has gathered attention, it has become a fad to those who want to be in on the latest thing. And so we have a spillover, a wave of purple posers that want to be part of the latest hot button controversy. And so they come to MGTOW and use the ambiguity of the words to say, hey everyone, guess what? I am a man and I am going a direction. So I can essentially do what I want and still be MGTOW. And then most will proceed to preach the purple pill pickup artist crap in our spaces. And then new males come here and see this purple ideology, and they think that is what MGTOW is all about. It's about belly aching on feminists and banging broads. And this mindset fuels the very mechanism that devalued them and sent them to our spaces in the first place. No, I'm sorry, you have it all wrong. MGTOW is not a pimp guide. It is not a good old boys club where we make a few feminist jokes on our way out the door for our next date. Quite simply, sex subjugates males to females, and MGTOW came about because men's rights was not getting the job done as far as male empowerment. So MGTOW is about monkhood, not being players. You want to believe in traditional family values and females playing submissive? Then you have traditionalism. Traditionalism is not MGTOW. You want to elevate and exalt women as better than you? Then you have feminism. Feminism is definitely not MGTOW. You want to speak about men's rights or men's issues while still being able to marry and chase females and have relationships? Then you are any number of flavors of men's activism. Men's rights is also not MGTOW. You want to run around and criticize females or sleep around and be players? Then you are a bad boy, a conventional rebel, not a MGTOW. All other subsets flow from these. Social justice warriors, manginas and simps, these are offsets of feminism. White knights and the man-up crowd are subsets of traditionalism. Pickup artists are subsets of the rebel bad boy. Every varying degree of ideological vein males subscribe to has been in existence, and MGTOW only came into being and excelled because it departed from all the pre-existing paradigms. And what is the one thing that all pre-existing theories shared? Males were still having sex and pursuing females romantically, and so MGTOW came into prominence because it eschewed what all others allowed. Sexual and romantic renunciation is the spirit of MGTOW, otherwise we would all be men's rights. If you want to be aware of men's issues and still chase tail, then you are men's rights. If you want to speak of male issues with an agenda towards relationships and females doing the laundry, then you are a traditionalist. If you want to be aware of female manipulation and use it to your advantage to sexually indulge, then you are a pickup artist. And a pickup artist is simply a modern rebranding of the bad boy rebel that hails back to James Dean. Pickup artistry is not new. Pimps, players, bad boys, all hail the same vein of conventional rebellion from conservatism. You don't need MGTOW to criticize and bang chicks. Males have been unabashedly promiscuous and vulgar for decades. Look at Andrew Dice Clay in the 80s. Yet the pickup artist was spawned by MGTOW insight. The thing is, when males removed themselves from sexual slavery and truly introspected the human animal, we began to have insights on females, as well as males and our species. The insights were such that the conventional bad boy took our introspections and used them to manipulate more attention and sex from females. This is the pickup artist movement, and the reason they are so closely associated with MGTOW is that they started trolling our spaces looking for insights that they could use to get more ass. Then they hung around because purple pillars took up residence and said that marriage was out, but everything else was game. And so PUAs dug into this clubhouse, since the other clubhouses, such as men's rights or conservatism, would chastise and censor them. If you are chasing females, relationships, dating, or sex, you are not MGTOW. The spirit of MGTOW is to reject everything that devalues males, everything, including sex. Sex, romance, dating, all of these denigrate male worth and further enslave them to gynocentrism. And so MGTOW arose to reject that which devalues males. The spirit of MGTOW is to monk, yet we are so infiltrated with the other groups wanting to be in on the latest thing that monks are now considered a small subsection. Yeah, it's like saying that people who do not drink are a small fringe element of Alcoholics Anonymous, where in reality the spirit of AA is to refrain from drinking. Do you think that hitting the bar after an AA meeting was the spirit in which AA was formed? Well, AA simply means Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I am an alcoholic. I drink all the time. And I keep my name anonymous when I go to these meetings. So technically, I am a member of AA. Yeah, come on. Does this kind of BS and hair splitting really fly? Is it cool for those rejecting the effects of Cheetos to still eat Cheetos? MGTOW is about monkhood, not sainthood. We don't say stop being hetero or don't look at porn. But at a certain point in your journey, you realize sex as a pathetic, overrated appetite that we practice control over. So in the spirit in which MGTOW was originated and has flourished, you find the eschewment of sexual and romantic interaction with females rightly addresses the devaluation that other paradigms are too weak or scared to address. So no, you are not MGTOW if you still date or chase sex. You are any number of other flavors of men's rights: conservatism, bad boy, traditionalist, PUA, or anti-feminism. Though really anti-feminists arose as a female movement that wanted to be protected and pampered again under the traditionalist paradigm. So they oppose the equality that their loudmouth sisters in the feminist movement have demanded, because these chicks are lazy and they do not want to actually have to work and do for themselves. But still, you can be a male anti-feminist if you like, but you are not MGTOW. Yes, MGTOW is a movement, a force. Yes, MGTOW promotes celibacy, inasmuch as it promotes male empowerment, and male empowerment comes from sexual and romantic renunciation. And MGTOW lead by example. My friends, stand with me, live free.